America is home to 33 million small businesses, the beating heart of communities across the country.
And proof that the American dream is still alive.
This is a show about those dreamers and doers and the communities they serve.
Their real life stories.
Their struggles and successes.
Their grit, determination, and passion.
And the people who fight
to keep their American dream alive.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz.
I'm Elaine Parker.
And it's time for another episode of Main Street Matters,
America's small business megaphone.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. I'm Elaine Parker, president of the Job Creators Network Foundation.
And I'm Alfredo Ortiz, CEO of Job Creators Network.
Please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast from and from SalemPodcastNetwork.com. Today, we are joined by Rob Collins. Rob is the founder and CEO of Coign, a credit card company for conservatives, which was founded in the spring of 2022. Coign is America's first credit card company built by conservatives for conservatives. Coign was created to advance conservative values and embrace the American spirit. Unlike other leading credit cards that give millions to the left each year, Coign is helping conservatives to align their dollars and their values. Alfredo, we continue to see this industry for conservatives open up more and more. We've had folks who are building homes, conservative communities. We've had folks who are developing, who have job boards and platforms. Job platforms and marketplaces where you can shop with conservative companies. So it's interesting. I'm looking forward to talking to him. But it's also interesting because you had an op-ed in Town Hall yesterday about credit cards, and it got me thinking as I read it, I don't really ever carry cash. I always use my credit card, whether it's a charge for $1 or $100.
All right.
I always carry cash now. And I think a lot of people have moved in that direction. How about you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I mean, I barely even carry my wallet, let alone cash.
But what a lot of people don't realize, if consumers, is that there's this hidden tax of swipe fees on those credit cards,
right?
Which is really, like I said, it's a hidden tax that costs about another $500 billion every year. And that's hidden in everything we buy with our credit cards. And that's just to cover the credit card transactions, about $502 million annually. That is a hidden tax to consumers. And we don't even realize that it's really happening. Like, we know today we're paying a lot more for gas. We know we're paying a lot more for food, but we don't know that there's these hidden taxes in there. And of course, as usual, who are they hurting the most is small businesses.
Yeah.
And now the banks are set to increase those swipe fees again, starting October 1st. It's insane.
Right. And again, 130 billion is the base. That's the total fees. That increased fee in October is the $500 million. Sorry. So it's really an actually monumental amount of money, because it is $130 billion a year in total fees that they charge. Why they've found the need to increase again in October, I'm not really sure, because it seems to be a pretty what I would call low labor, low intensive, type of situation, because they're literally just taking percentages off every single swipe of every single transaction. So I'm sure the infrastructure's, pretty complex, but I think it's pretty, kind of set in place. And so, for small businesses, they're also really hurting with these kinds of swipe fees. So, there's legislation in place. In fact, I think it's
Credit Card Competition Act.
There you go. Yeah, that's going to be really important to actually pass, because that gets rid of the duopoly kind of idea in terms of no competition, right? It pretty much, forces competition to happen in this industry.
Yeah, and it's interesting what it's going to do. It's going to require these mega banks, the Bank of Americas and the Citibanks, to actually provide small businesses with an alternative on how to process their credit cards. Guess what you and I call that? competition.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just going to be really important. I mean, we need to give our small business owners as many breaks as we can, and this has been a big one. That's always been an issue for so many, but it's kind of they're kind of trapped, right? Because again, less and less people are carrying cash or checks, so credit card are pretty much all they have. I mean, if you don't accept credit cards, I mean, I don't honestly know how you would be operating. So I'm excited. And it's actually bipartisan legislation. So the fact that it's out there and there's support for it, I think it's great. But we got to get the word out.
Absolutely. I actually had a conversation with my hairdresser a couple weeks ago about this. I just was curious. She's a independent, she rents her chair, so she's swiping all day long. And I said, "Are you impacted by this?" And she said, "Well, I do a lot of credit card sales. That's all I do." And she said, and I think, "Oh, great, I've had a wonderful month." And she said, and then the day comes and her bank goes and takes out that big withdrawal for the credit card fees. And, she's just a single person, a single entity. But that's who it's hurting the most. And, that's what this kind of legislation and competition into this industry would do, because these mega banks would have to compete with these alternatives that are going to charge lower fees to people like her. So I hope that Congress can get on board with helping small businesses.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you think about it, it's actually a percentage off that sale, right off the top, right of that revenue. So that's why it's so big. It's not like,
Right.
An actual expense that's, 1% or something. I mean, this comes right off the top. And so, we have a couple of examples here. For one small business, an owner, a New Mexico travel center, it pays more than $800,000 annually in swipe fees, which is just absolutely crazy. Another entrepreneur in Tennessee who runs convenience stores, this is amazing, shells out nearly $3 million a year in swipe fees. I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, it looks like, these expenses are only second behind labor costs. I mean, actually, quite frankly, that was actually news to me. I didn't realize it was that much of an impact. But to be behind labor costs, just behind it is just incredible.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think consumers realize that this is happening because it doesn't directly impact them. And so this op-ed in Town Hall was really well written, Alfredo, and I think it really laid out the problem. Mm-hmm. There's a solution in Congress that both sides actually agree on. We just need to get more of them to agree on it and get them to move it along.
Yeah, it will be interesting to talk to Rob about it, because I'd be curious to his take on this, and what how he thinks it would actually impact his business.
Hey folks, Elaine Parker here from Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. A tree branch hit a power line in Ohio 2003, and it shut down 21 power plants. Around 100 people died. We have a power grid that was designed in the 1800s. Even the White House sees it. They're saying 2/3 of the grid are at least 25 years old, so they recently announced billions of dollars to update it. And how long will that take to actually do? That's why having your own solar power is more important than ever. With the Patriot Power Generator, you get a solar generator that doesn't install into your house because it's portable. You can take it with you and even use it inside. But it's powerful enough for your phones, medical devices, or even your fridge. And right now you can go to 4patriots.com and use code STREET to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including the Patriot Power Generator. You'll also get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on orders over $97. And a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com and use code STREET to get 10% off. That's 4patriots.com. Use code STREET to get yours today.
The CEO of Coign, which is a credit card company for conservatives, Before starting, Rob was a veteran strategist and former founding partner of S3 Public Affairs. In the spring of 2017, the Trump administration asked him to quarterback the successful bipartisan nomination of Judge Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. Prior to S3, Collins was the executive director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, a 125 million, 80-person organization responsible for electing Republicans to the U.S. Senate. During his tenure at the NRSC, he helped re-elect 12 incumbents and elect 12 new Republicans. These pickups were part of a historic 9-seat gain for the Republicans, the largest GOP gain in 35 years. Rob, welcome to Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Love this. Love the show. Love all the advocacy and organizing and education you do for your viewers, and it's really critical this day and age.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. You know, we've been at it for about 10 years now, and boy, I'm telling you, these past 3 years, small businesses really need this megaphone and the advocacy. I mean, they are just getting, as you know, bombarded left and right with especially inflation, but everything that's been thrown at them on the regulatory, taxes, you name it. It's just our small businesses are hurting. So we're excited to do what we do.
No, I mean, we are a credit card for conservatives. And so we borrow a lot of money. And with inflation rates going in the wrong direction, it's harder and harder to find cheap capital.
Yeah.
And the risk profile is going up. And at the same time, with the implosion of Silicon Valley Bank, we're seeing more regulatory attention at the state and local level. So it's been a tough time. We're growing and we feel really good about the business. But, when we launched the concept in December of 21, it was a completely different environment, and it has really been a lot of headwinds. But we're getting there. I see other small businesses are getting there. It's a lot of work. You got to be, hustling every day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Rob, I want to spell the name of your company is Coign for our listeners, if they want to go and check you out and take a look at your credit card. But tell me a little bit about where the idea came from. How do you just start a credit card company?
It seems crazy. And I did a bunch of market research beforehand because it's such a simple concept. I said, someone else must have thought of this, and found out to be a fantastically terrible idea. But I was working in Washington, and I was working at the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which is the political arm for the Senate. And I saw a bunch of polling that showed conservatives and corporate America were not in alignment. This was pre-Trump. And so I just started to noodle on it. So I built another business, and that was great. But in the back of my mind, I just had this thought that conservatives were not happy with corporate America, and it only got worse since 2014. It only got worse. So over COVID, I had a little bandwidth, and I started to tackle that very idea of how do you start a credit card company, one of the most regulated, capital intensive, established industry. How do we add another credit card to someone's wallet? I come from the conservative governing perspective, but I partnered with a couple folks from just a huge credit card company, and we just started kind of like any entrepreneur. Just started a lot of tire spinning, a lot of uphill, a lot of boulders crashing down on us, but just talking to smart people, getting Visa, getting a bank, getting everything we needed to kind of build a credit card. We built our own app. And then we just started marketing. So, I mean, in many ways, we're completely different than any other entrepreneur because we're in such a regulated space. But in a lot of ways, we all face the same challenge. What's your customer acquisition? What's your cost of funds? Are your customers using your product? Are they happy with your product? Are they reviewing you on the Apple App Store nicely? What can you be doing better? And just the macroeconomic picture, darkened as we launched. But I think we're through the worst of it. From the company perspective, I think the economy is still a question mark. But, as we get older and more seasoned, I think banks and other financial partners are willing to take a risk on us.
Now I'm fascinated when you said that some of the research was pre-Trump, because it seems as though, this is like a post-Trump situation. But you were seeing that trend even beforehand, huh?
Well, if you remember, it was kind of a blip of a story, but there was a couple who was engaged in some pretty nasty terrorism, and their activity was on an Apple iPhone.
Oh yeah, out in California, right?
Apple wouldn't crack the phone to
Right.
help the FBI investigate what they were up to. It got resolved, but I would say that we asked just a question like, what do you think about it? And we saw conservatives just going a completely different opposite direction.
And so I just started to think, and I just started to watch, and and it's easy to say the conservatives hopped off the bandwagon, but when you start to look at kind of the woke lens that has really come into focus through corporate America and the anti-business, the anti-American stuff that kind of comes out of kind of corporate America, you kind of quickly realize conservatives didn't leave corporate America. Corporate America left us. And so then, I just started to think, what do conservatives want? And what they want is no more time. They're too busy running their business, running their families, being a part of the community.
Right.
But they want a product that's very seamless, very safe, very seamless, that kind of they can just integrate. They're not so interested in destroying the left but they just want to support their views. And when you see American Express giving $2 billion to left-leaning causes and charitable contributions and nothing to the right, you start to understand why their customers in particular are the most anxious about how their commerce is being used to fund things that they don't support. So if corporations want to get into politics but only want to play one side, you're going to see efforts like mine crop up.
Yeah. And like Elaine said, we are seeing more of these companies kind of focus on that specific conservative consumer popping up, and they seem to have a lot of success. And so what has been the growth like for you over the past few years?
We started, a credit card. You have so many regulations. You have to, no anti-terrorism, know your customer. I could bore your audience with everything, but, so we started in July of last year with cards. We had a very limited kind of friends and family just working it out. And then in November, we just said, let's open the doors. We had a huge wait list that we built just from people who are interested. We 26x'd our list in about 2 weeks. And since the beginning of the year, we're up 247%.
Wow.
I mean, we are growing like a weed. We just added authorized users. So now a husband and wife can be on the same account.
Wow.
And we continue. We have customers in all 50 states. We're 51 men, 49% women. Our first 3 customers were women. Age range, we're across the spectrum. And we, for a company the size of ours, if you look at American Express, we should have about 40 people who just have walked away from their bill and said, well, I'm not paying. We have 0.
Wow.
So, I mean, conservatives are not only fantastic customers, not only do they believe in the country and what we're doing, but they're also great business risks. And, the trick about loaning someone $1 is you got to get the dollar back. And conservatives have proven to be a really great bet in that category.
So your customers aren't looking for Biden to forgive all their credit card debt like the student loans?
No, they understand responsibility, and they understand they spend it and they got to pay it back. But, for our customers, they get unlimited cash back, which is what they're used to. But every time they swipe, we as a company donate to conservative causes. And then once a quarter, we roll out the charities, and our customers vote. And if you get 40% of the vote, you get 40% of the charity bucket for that quarter.
Okay.
We're a startup, but we donated $10,000 the first quarter. Last quarter, we did $25,000 to 4 charities. And, this quarter, we just started rolling out our next round of charities, and we'll probably do $35,000 to $40,000. I mean, the power of small dollars here is what is so critical. And, if we hit our 5-year projections, you could see $30-40 million going to good conservative charities that are solving America's problems just through a conservative lens. And it's a cool opportunity to be kind of at the beginning of something that could be so transformative, hopefully.
Yeah. Well,
is it mainly conservative? Not conservative. Is it mainly individual consumers versus business? Do you have a business credit card too?
Someday we will. I get calls every couple weeks from people who are fed up with their credit card, their bank, their institution. A lot of people in unfavored industries. So think
oil, gas, guns.
they have trouble with the banking system.
Yeah.
And so, funds are held up, they have to go through, external review. It's just capital. What our growth is not limited by anything other than the fact that we need to raise money constantly. Just because, these are $1 billion projects we're taking on. And we've been incredibly fortunate to have great partners, not shocking, all in the Midwest, on the bank side, the lending side, and they're going to grow with us. But we have to be patient. But yeah, so that's kind of how we look at it.
Now, Rob, I have to ask though, I mean, if you look at the financial industry right now and, you got the Black Rocks and how that all feeds in ESG and all this other stuff, how are you finding the conservative banks to partner with? Because, it doesn't look like they're out there. It looks like they, you have Silicon Valley Bank and, what they were doing over there out in California, but it looks like all banks have pretty much gone woke. So how are you finding the non-woke banks?
Well, they're all big banks. The big banks are the ones that are the least interested in, making money for their customers. They'd rather I guess that's important. They get invited to the right cocktail parties in their cities. But there are a lot of great banks out there. We have over 7,000 banks in America. Some are privately held. Some are just, our bank has, 6 branches, and they're not the biggest bank in the world. You probably haven't heard of them, but they saw a great business opportunity. Wow, people who pay their bills on time, who have a lot of money, who spend a lot of money. Conservatives are a great bet. We want to work with you. We don't, and they're not conservatives. They're just a bank who wants to make more money, and they see an opportunity. And the number of times we've seen companies who say, boy, we love you. This is unbelievable what you're doing. You're so smart. You're going to be so successful. But, sometimes when they're being nice, they'll say, we have San Francisco risk. That's how they talk about it, which is a code for, we might get our hands slapped by liberals, right, and they will make our lives miserable, which is kind of a bummer, because if you look at all of our messaging, I'm not about destroying things. I'm about building things. Like any entrepreneur, I want to build cool stuff. So I don't care if the left has a credit card, by the way, they can do their thing. We just want to have our little world. And if you believe in free speech, then you should be totally supportive of what we're doing. But you find that's not the case. And people bring their ideological viewpoints to their job. And if your job is to make money for your investors, we're a great bet. And some people put their politics in front of making money for their folks, and it's stupid.
Are you having challenges at all with competing with all those perks, travel perks, shopping perks, cashback perks, all of those things? I mean, it seems like people really look for what am I going to get back for spending money with you? And then, of course, some companies charge an annual fee. Do you also charge an annual fee?
We don't charge an annual fee. We like to say we have everything a major credit card has. We have Visa, we have all the cyber protections, we have an app, we have a website. You can pay by electronic, you can pay by check. So we are in the marketplace. Our folks get unlimited cash back, 1%, which is right down the middle of the fairway for most folks in the credit card space. But every credit card you've ever gotten has got this thing working, your brain. Oh, am I a traveler? Do I want the cash back? Oh, do I eat at Outback Steakhouse enough to, we do all that, but we also get your heart engaged. We are literally investing in the future of this country. We are trying to change where we're going as a nation. We're investing in great causes that protect religious liberty, veterans, education, conservation, you name it, smaller, smarter government, a less aggressive regulatory environment, which should be warm your heart. Yeah. And our customers really feel great. And the next phase of this, and they inherently get this, is right now, trillions of dollars of conservative commerce is spread throughout the economy. If we can work together and organize that commerce, we can be back in the boardroom. We have no voice in the corporate boardroom other than like an annoyance. Yeah. And we do boycotts, and boycotts are important. But if you want to change the system, you have to get to where the money is. And where's the money for millions of Americans that they can have a hand on the tiller of what our country stands for? It's through their credit card. Bigger than banks, bigger than anything else we'll do.
Yeah, I love that we're, like Alfredo said, we're seeing this marketplace of conservative options for people who don't want to fund corporations that are supporting, liberal organizations that they don't agree with and don't align with their values. We've seen marketplaces, we've seen a construction. We had a contractor on who has built a community basically for conservatives. And, we're seeing, and now we've got credit cards. So I think people just didn't know how to do it. They wanted to. I remember back in the day when Obamacare was being passed, my mom was actually very politically active and campaigned. I mean, she would walk, they called her the sign lady because she carried so many signs for politicians. But she was one of the first to cut her ARP card up and mail it back to them because she felt so betrayed by what they had done. But she didn't know how else to fight back.
Right. And, conservatives are busy. And if you ask for time, like, hey, take an extra step, drive an extra 2 miles to a gas station that doesn't support Planned Parenthood, they'll try. But that's what I think the magic of Coign is how can we have something that's seamless? We're in the phone, triple click. If you want to pay, you can tap, you can swipe, it's everything you've ever had in a credit card, but you don't have to take an extra step. You just pull out just a different card and you can have an impact on America. And that's what drew it to me because I, as I said, I did a bunch of market research and I really studied the conservative marketplace and I was looking at wine or ties or food, but what I found was make it easy, please. Yeah. I want to help, but I just don't have a lot of time. And that's where the credit card is just so seamless and they want it to be secure. Like no one wants to get ripped off. So that was another big thing. So that has been our focus. Can we make it authentically conservative and can we make it secure? And I think we've accomplished that. And it's just now a matter of growing and talking to folks like you and, your listeners about kind of what we're doing and trying to be additive to the process and the parallel economy and helping everyone out. We just launched a, we call it the Freedom Shopping Center. It's just a place where we put companies that we like, that we've kind of bumped into because, there is no one kind of hub, we think, where you can kind of just go and just find people who are doing this. And there are some great people doing kind of like an Amazon type thing. And I think they're going to be very successful. Public Square is one of them. Right. But we just wanted a list of like just companies that we kind of know. And we think we think they do a nice job and, just start to help other conservative companies grow. I mean, we got to work together.
So I was just out of curiosity if, you're one of these conservative companies that want to somehow be part of the group that you're kind of pulling together. I mean, what is the process of doing that?
You can just email us at help@coign.com. So it's just real simple, help@coign.com. And, our customer service folks are in Arizona and they kind of go through it and people send us charity ideas. They send us the Freedom Shopping Center partner ideas. And along with everything else that goes along with the credit card customer service. But that's a great way if folks have a business that they want us to kind of put on our website. We're not Google.com in terms of traffic, but we do pretty well. We have a lot of interactions with folks, and we advertise a lot through conservative organizations and radio shows and other stuff. So we do have a lot of eyeballs who go through there, and we're glad to feature anyone. If you want to be listed with us, we're glad to list you.
That's great. What I do like about this idea is that it is kind of a nice way, it makes me feel a little bit less guilty probably to like shop Amazon. Because at least I know that some of the money is going to conservative cause. You're right. You take the guesswork, you take the how am I going to get this money to these people? You kind of take that off the table and it's just part of everyday life. Right. I mean, it really is a great concept and it's pretty exciting. To see your growth in this area, because I think it is going to get, more and more as we kind of have the tyranny of minority becomes bigger and bigger in this country. I think people are looking for, I call it a safe space almost.
I think you're right. When you're on the beach, it's hot and the kids want to get Ben and Jerry's. I mean, are you really going to say no because they're politics? Right. But when you have a Coign card, you can kind of just be like, it's my conservative offset. They do carbon offsets for stuff. It's your conservative offset. Like, I got to go to Starbucks. I have to go to these other places. But every time I swipe, at least I know, a portion of that transaction is going into the charity bucket. And later that month, I'm going to vote on a charity that I think is really doing great work. And I'll feel good. Like, I'll feel like I wasn't a part of fostering something that's working very hard against what I believe.
I love that. So they vote every month on what organization?
Quarterly. Yeah, quarterly. We do quarterly. I'd love to get to a monthly, but quarterly for now. We're still a startup. And we put out 4 charities. So this month we have, in honor of 9/11, a charity that when an active duty service member loses their life, it helps their kids go to college. We have 2 education charities, and then we have a halfway house down in Alabama that was recommended to us by one of our customers. So those are our 4 charities. At the end of the month, we'll have all of our customers vote, 1 card, 1 vote. And like I said, if you win 40% of the vote, you get 40% of the charity bucket. But everyone gets something. And, we have really put an emphasis on having the charities just cut little videos so that our folks can kind of get a feel for what they would do with the money. And we had 60% of our customers vote. I mean, so in the digital age of lots of emails and texts, we were thrilled by that number.
Yeah.
And, people write us testimonials all the time. I mean, I work with some pretty very smart credit card people, and they're like, your customers are so interesting. They call, they want to work for us. They want to invest with us.
They want us to give them flyers so they can print them out and take it to the diner.
I mean, they are like so fanatical about what you're doing. I was like, well, we just tapped into a really hungry population that wants to change the way we're doing business.
Yeah. I mean, you really did. I mean, like Elaine said, we talked to a home builder. I mean, their interest in what they were doing is just phenomenal. I think it was in North Carolina, if I remember correctly, Elaine. They were building a community for basically not for conservatives, but people that share a conservative values and mindset. I love the fact that they sell you the house with a brand new American flag on the front.
Oh, cool.
And it's kind of part of the HOA. They're not required to do it, but they highly suggest it and to be part of that community. And so, it's really neat. I mean, I think people are looking for this, what I call kind of safe spaces to be able to have conservative values, because it doesn't seem to be, like I said, it's a tyranny of the minority. And that does have to stop, because that just doesn't work.
Yeah, people on the left are just very aggressive, and they're very opinionated and want to drive their agenda all the time.
Right.
We have young kids. It's on the shows. You watch the local news. They spend a lot of energy trying to tell us how we should live our lives. And then you go to your favorite products, and they're involved in politics now. They're involved in issues that corporations don't need to be involved in. And half their customers are just staring at them saying, what are you doing? And,
I always remind folks, there's more Trump voters in LA County
than there are in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming.
Yeah.
And they don't have a voice, and there's no one who has any interest in talking to them. And when they do, all they do is talk down to us, as we saw with Bud Light.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
So, we're providing an outlet, a positive outlet, where people are coming together and saying, hey, I still need to buy stuff, but if I can help conservative charities solve America's problems, great. That's awesome. And let's just grow it and keep getting bigger. Is kind of how we think about it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, for our listeners, viewers out there, that are interested in getting one of your credit cards, what is the process, and where do they go to do that?
Yeah, you just go to Coign.com, Coign.com, and you'll see an application page on there. We ask you a few simple questions in a very secure way. We never sell your data. And right now we have a pretty tight window for folks on the credit side, but we're hoping to expand it. But we have a wait list if you want to just kind of check us out. We usually send a communication once a week. And just it's about credit card stuff. It's about America. It's about funny stuff, whatever, and if folks just want to join the wait list, and, I know switching credit cards is a big decision, and they just want to check us out and learn more about us. And you can learn about the charities and who we're supporting. So Coign.com, best place to go.
Okay. That's Coign.com.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It sounds like the coin in your pocket, but a Coign is an architectural term for the stone that holds the arch together. So yeah,
okay.
that's why we. I know people always ask me about it, but that's why we did it.
Okay, great.
Well, Rob, thanks so much for joining us, taking the time to join us on Main Street Matters, America's Small Business Megaphone. And thank you all for joining us. You can subscribe to the show at salempodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcast from.